Welcome to Golden Goal TV. Yes, we are back live once again for the Premier League review show. And, well, no, Premier League preview show. There we go, get it right. Premier League preview show, rather. So coming up on the show today, we will be previewing the action this weekend. We will also be giving you live score updates from some interesting games, including, of course, the Chelsea versus Luton Town from Stamford Bridge, I believe. And yes, you'll be getting that, plus some maybe other interesting results around the country and Europe. So let's welcome the panel first. Back on the show, we haven't had you on for a while. Dan, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Hopefully looking forward to a better season than last season.
I mean, 2 weeks in, you're 4 points, that's not too bad. You've got Newcastle, which we'll preview later. And also on the show, we've got George. How's it going, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you? I'm the only one who's got 100% record on my team this season. So,
well, it's only been 2 weeks. Third round's only starting, mate. So yes, we will start off with, as I said, we're not going to preview the Chelsea game because that's happening as we speak. So we will give you updates as we go. But yeah, we'll start with Bournemouth versus Tottenham tomorrow at 12:30. Got Bournemouth, who so far have picked up a draw and a loss. So not in the greatest position. And you've got Tottenham, who without a striker aren't doing too bad. So we're going to start with Dan. Dan, where do you think this game's going? What's your thoughts?
I wouldn't write off Bournemouth too quick. I think I listened to the Liverpool audio commentary last week and they weren't dreadful. They played quite decent, I'd say, at points. But I don't know. I think Tottenham seem to have got a lot of things right lately. And it seems to be working for them. Whatever they're doing seems to be working. And I'd fancy it, like, it's going to be a tight one, but you'd probably go 1-0 Tottenham. It's going to be a narrow win and I'd say quite a close game.
And if we go to you, George, it could be tight. I mean, Bournemouth have, upset Tottenham before and have caused them problems before. So where do you think that game's going to
go? Is it at Spurs?
I believe it's at the Vitality Stadium.
You never know with Bournemouth, don't they? I agree with Dan. I don't actually think they've been that bad this season. I know they've only got 1 point, but they've played West Ham and Liverpool in their first 2 games. I thought they played quite well against West Ham and they weren't too bad actually against Liverpool. I think it all depends like what Bournemouth turn up and what Spurs turn up, because they ain't got Harry Kane to win them a diving penalty like last season. So it'll be interesting. It depends if I think Maddison might be out, so that's a big miss for them. Bournemouth have made some decent signings. They've just signed like Adams. He'll be able to play now. So, like Dan said, I won't rule Bournemouth out, but I think I'm going to go 1-1, to be fair.
One. Hey, not bad, hey? Not too bad at all. Yes, I think this fixture can go either way. And I think, you say they don't have Harry Kane anymore, and sure enough, they don't. But the last 2 games, it seems like not having Harry Kane has not been a massive issue for Spurs, in my opinion. But yeah, Bournemouth, they're one of these teams that can often surprise you when you least expect it.
The thing with Tottenham, though, is that none of their attacking players have scored. That's what everyone so they might have been doing well, but not one of their attacker players has scored yet. So I think people need to take that into consideration.
You can't expect Richarlison to score, mate.
As I've said before, I do hope they kept the receipt for Richarlison. To be fair, I still think Spurs will win it, but I think they'll edge it. I don't think it's going to be that easy. So I'm going to go 2-1 Tottenham on that one myself, narrow victory for Spurs, but I think Bournemouth can frustrate, especially teams where Bournemouth aren't expected to do anything against, the most dangerous the most dangerous team is one on whom there's not much expectation. And I think that always helps teams like Bournemouth against, teams above them like Spurs. Moving on to the next game, George, will come to you. Arsenal-Fulham. So Arsenal, 100% record, although injuries piling up, suspensions. Are you concerned or, against Fulham? Or do you think it will be fine? What's your thoughts on the current situation and the Fulham game?
I'm not really. I think we'll win. Like, I know you're saying injuries and suspensions are piling up, but we've got 2 players back in Zinchenko and Jesus, which I think Jesus is massive already to have him back. So that'd be good if he can feature in a bit. But I think we'll have enough being at home. Obviously, that's not mugging off Fulham. Like, you have to be careful of them. They've got some decent players still. But a Fulham without Mitrovic is a different conversation. Obviously Leno's going to want to prove a point, but yeah, with the home crowd behind us, I think we'll be right. I think you'll see Gabriel and Zinchenko come back in, so all those people having nightmares with Gabriel, they can stop worrying. And you'll see Partey and Rice back in the midfield. But I think I'd say 2-0 Arsenal. I don't think it'll be like a 3-4, anything like that. Fulham could upset us a little bit, but I think we've got enough to get 3 out of 3 and then move on to making it 4 out of 4 against United.
Good to hear confidence there. Definitely good confidence there when it comes to Arsenal fans, despite everything. Dan, what do you think? What do you predict for that one?
Yeah, similar to what George said. I think with Jesus coming back, that gives him a bit more firepower. I think, he's not going to score you 25 goals a season, but he is going to score you goals. I think he has quite a good chance against Fulham. I don't think they're the same without Mitrovic. I don't think they've been the same really this season. They weren't great last week. They beat Everton, but anyone could probably do that at the moment. They're a mess. I think Arsenal, again, got some players coming back. They're at home. They've got a good record. They've done well sort of last season. They look like they're building something. And I just can't see Fulham beating them, to be honest. I can see a few goals from Arsenal and maybe 1 from Fulham. So I'd say it's going to be quite an easy one for Arsenal. Fulham will play well in parts of the game, I'd say. But Arsenal will have it. I'd say 3-1 to Arsenal.
Loving the confidence. Confident for Fulham to lose on both sides. And I think, to be honest, it's hard to see any other result. Like George said, to me, Fulham without Mitrovic are a very different Fulham. And sure, okay, they've bought Jimenez, but so far I've not really seen where Jimenez is actually delivering, to be honest. So whether Fulham have actually replaced Mitrovic or they've kind of bought someone who's of a lesser quality is debatable. And for me at the moment, I'd be going on the side that they've not actually replaced Mitrovic all that well, despite, Mitrovic causing a problem and having a problem with how much he was valued at. I think to Fulham, he was invaluable pretty much. So to me, I think Arsenal will win. I'm going to go 3-0 Arsenal, actually. Mainly because I've got Willie Saliba in my fantasy team, so I wouldn't mind a clean sheet either. Right, let's see what game we've got next. We're going to go to, now, I'm saying this game, this is already a 6-pointer, a win, and we're on week 3 here. So it's Everton versus Wolves. Now, both teams not doing well at all. Wolves losing to Brighton last week 4-1. Everton being hammered by Villa, also conceding 4 goals and not even scoring the 1. So all in all, not a great situation for both teams, really. Wolves looked really well and convincing under United against United in the first game, but since then not really put that performance up against Brighton. Everton lost both of their games to Fulham and Villa. So on 0 points, George, who's winning that one if there will be a winner at all?
The only game that's probably I'm stumped with, I think Everton have to win it. But then I think Wolves have to win it. So like I said on the show earlier in the week, it's the first 6 point of the season already, and we're only in game week 3. So I think it'll be a scrappy and a horrible game. That I'll go Everton 1-0.
To be honest, it's a sensible prediction. It's one of these tricky games to tell. I mean, Dan, what result do you predict in that game? It's a tricky one to predict, I'd say.
Yeah, no, it's not easy to predict. I think we got 2 teams here that at the moment haven't got a massive amount of goals in them. Neither of them have, really. I'd say Wolves, like you said earlier, they played all right against United. They didn't do bad. Everton, I wouldn't say have played well so far this season. But again, the issue that they've both got is that they both lack goals. And to have this game this early in the season, I'd say Everton need the points more than Wolves, because I think Wolves will pick up more than Everton throughout the season. But I can't see anything happening in this one, to be honest. I can see it being quite a boring match and a 0-0.
To be honest with you, I'm not really going to go much different to you guys. I think it is going to be a tricky game, and I don't think there'll be much between these teams. I'm not going to go 0-0, but I'll go close enough. I'm going to go 1-1 between the two teams. I think both teams aren't doing well, and I think both teams would right now probably appreciate a point to kick them off. It's not going to be good enough at the moment, but anything's better than nothing, really, for these teams. And I think if I was to have to kind of say which team would be more likely to win, I'd still say probably Wolves. But no, this game has a draw written all over it, quite frankly. Moving on to our next fixture now. This team probably does need a win. Well, both teams technically do, really. Manchester United versus Nottingham Forest. Forest beating Sheffield United last week. Manchester United being beaten by Tottenham and looking more Spursy than Tottenham themselves. Yes, and Luke Shaw is also injured, so that's probably not going to help United. Dan, what do you think? Where's this game going?
I think Forest, they like to give it their best in the game, but I mean, they beat Sheffield United last week, but I wouldn't say it was a massively convincing win. I'd say they dropped off quite quick. They started well, looked like they had the potential to go on and score more, but yeah, I'd say they dropped off, and obviously they won it really late in the game. I think United, they have not looked strong all season. I mean, they weren't brilliant against Wolves. They got the win, obviously, last week against Tottenham, shocking. I still favour them to win it, and I'm going to say a 2-1 to United.
2-1 to Man United. Just before we go to George, I'll give you some score updates around Europe and the countries. Southend, who have had recently a points deduction, currently leading Eastleigh 2-0. Much needed points for Southend there to try and, well, at least help them to get closer to getting out of the minus figures. So far, 100% Monaco record in Ligue 1 is about, well, it's at risk because they're currently losing to Nantes. They're losing 1-0. And Stuttgart lead Leipzig 1-0. Leipzig still without a point in week 2. So these are a few score updates. It's still currently 0-0 as it stands in the Premier League game between Chelsea and Luton Town. George, Manchester United, Forest, what are your thoughts? You know, both Forest, they'll be boosted by that win last time, and Man United, I mean, they're not having the greatest. You know, they won against Wolves, but that win was full of all sorts of things that didn't really make it feel like a win. And then obviously that game against Tottenham last week. What do you think is going to happen here?
I think United should probably still have enough, but they've not been playing well, like you're saying. Luke Shaw and Mason Mount being injured, whether they not played that well, it's still going to affect our United play, because I'm not sure who they'll play at left back now, because Malasia's out injured as well, I think. I did hear rumours about them bringing Ashley Young back. So, or signing Ryan Bertram on a free. So that's the sort of levels they're at. It all depends if Højlund's going to start as well, because then if you've got Rashford on the left, you're going to see the best of Rashford on that side. But it means that they'll probably be playing 2 number 6s, or alongside Casemiro. They'll probably have to play McTominay. So it's at United, so I think they should win. They've got to play a lot better than they have last couple of weeks. Forest, I think it's like we say that their away form is dreadful, but that's something they've got to improve on if they want to get up the table. I have heard that they're on the verge of signing Callum Hudson-Odoi, which I think is a very good signing for Forest. And so obviously you won't be there in time for this, but they're buying the right players. They were a bit frustrated last weekend, like they won the game. I weren't worried that they weren't going to win it, but they just conceded a silly goal. So the one thing I said about United, just be careful of Forest on the break, because they have so much pace that can punish you. So, but I'm going to go 2-1 United.
2-1 United also. Well, seems like a United majority win for this one, and I'm going to be a third that prediction. I think not having Luke Shaw and Mason Mount's not going to help, but to be honest, Mason Mount looked pretty much invisible to me like in the Spurs game. So how much of a miss is it really going to be? We have to wait and see. Luke Shaw's probably going to be a bigger miss for United than Mason Mount has been. Forest, I don't know. I think you never know with Forest. It's tricky to really tell much about them at this stage, because we don't really know, whether they've been boosted by that win against Sheffield United, but whether it will be enough to beat Manchester United is a different story. I think United will still edge it. I'm going 2-1 to Manchester United. And the next game we're going to move on to. Now, this one, I think that's going to be quite tasty. Brighton versus West Ham, and Brighton beating Wolves last time very convincingly 4-1, and obviously West Ham getting that win against Chelsea. Both teams on a fairly good run. I mean, Brighton unbeaten, 100% record so far. West Ham a draw and a win under their belts, better than people expected. Dan, where do you think that game's going?
Yeah, I would have thought West Ham I would have thought they'd have started worse than that. It just didn't look like it was going right, but they've had a good start, so fair play to them. Brighton, they're just continuing from last season, really. I mean, they started really well last season and carried it on all season. Sort of thought maybe they'd drop off, but they haven't. And they've come back this season. They look ready to go again. They've lost a couple of key players. They're still going. If anything, really, I'm going to say that it's going to go to Brighton. I think West Ham, they are playing well this season, and I think they will do better than last season from what we've seen. Still too early to say for definite, but they look better. But no, I'm going to say I reckon it's going to be a really good game, and I'm going to say 3-2 to Brighton.
Because then Chelsea have gone 1-0 up.
They have indeed. It's 1-0 Chelsea. Let me just see.
Raheem
Sterling, hey? Well, he did look much better during the West Ham game. Him and the work him and Nicholas Jackson did together, I thought was quite interesting. So, yeah, what was your prediction, Dan, for the game again?
I had it 3-2 to Brighton.
3-2 Brighton. It's going to be a tea time thriller. George, what do you think?
I go on form as well, but I could be wrong, but West Ham have never beat Brighton in the Premier League. It's one of their really bad bogey teams, Brighton. So I think it'll be a good game because they've both got players that can be exciting. I don't think Kudus will be there in time to play for West Ham. but he's a player to watch. That he's very, very, very good quality. I think Brighton will edge it. I just think they're a very, very good side. The attack-minded players they have, like I was saying about Solly March being even mentioned for the England team the other day on the show. Then you've got Matoma, Pedro, Ferguson, Welbeck. So just to name a few. So I'm going to go 3-1 Brighton.
3-1 Brighton. Interesting. I mean, to me, based on the last few performances by both teams, I do think this game could be a thriller potentially. Will it be as big as a 3-2? I'm not too sure myself, but I think Brighton at the moment, they need to make the most of that momentum that they have. And, especially before their Europa League starts, they want to get as many wins as possible and as many 3 points as they can. And I think right now that needs to be the key for Brighton. And I think against West Ham, it's going to be tricky, but I think they can do it. I will go for a thriller prediction still. I will go for 4-2 to Brighton. 6-goal thriller there for me. Right, moving on to the next one. We're going to move on straight to the last game on our list, because I think we all know what's going to happen between Manchester City and Sheffield United, unless you chaps think differently about the other two, because the other two games we've not looked at is Burnley Villa and Sheffield United Man City. Before we move on to Newcastle Liverpool, have you got anything you want to say on either of these, George?
I don't think that Burnley Villa game's cut and dry. Just because Villa playing on a Thursday. I'm not saying they won't win, but Burnley being at home, we saw how Burnley played against Man City, and I thought they actually played okay. Just obviously, you know what Haaland's like. So I'd be mildly interested to watch that Burnley Villa game. But I wouldn't be surprised if Burnley got something there. Obviously, City, Sheffield United, we know what's going to happen there. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a 5 or a 6-0 for a City. Or I could be completely wrong and be pleasantly surprised and Austin Trusty scored a win or something. I don't know.
Dan, what do you think? Let's talk Burnley Villa, shall we? Because with George saying it's not going to be clear-cut, what do you think? I mean, it's not going to be Villa against Everton last week. They're not going to find it that easy. But do you think Burnley can snatch something out of that one? Do you think it's a tricky game to predict?
Again, I don't think Burnley had a bad start against City, really. You're playing Man City, so you can't really expect much else. But I wouldn't say they had a bad start. I'd say they played all right. Villa, they had a really bad start. Played well last week, obviously, scored 4. But they've also played midweek, and they're going to have a lot of that this season. Obviously, they're not really used to that. Burnley haven't played for 2 weeks either. Their game against Luton obviously was off, so they'll be fresh and ready for it. But, you can see Villa going with it, but I do think Burnley are going to give them a difficult match. And I think if I had to predict that, I'd probably say a 2-1 to Villa. But I think Burnley might look just as good as them in the game.
I was just checking the assist for the Chelsea goal. George, you'll be happy. Marlon Gusto assisted the Raheem Sterling goal. I don't know if you've mentioned that before the show. I don't think you have. So, yeah, it's a Marlon Gusto assist.
I'll have that, mate. Offer an assist and a clean sheet, potentially, off a 4 million defender. I'll take that.
Can't go wrong with that. What a very cheap buy. And I've got a feeling if he does well, I think 4 million might not stick around for long after this weekend. Right then, we will go to Newcastle versus Liverpool. Now, this game, it's a tricky one to predict as well, I think, because these teams, Liverpool so far, they drew with Chelsea and beat Bournemouth, and you have Newcastle who lost to Manchester City in an incredibly boring game last week, but then did have what you can describe as slightly convincing win against Aston Villa 5-1, the first game of the season. So Dan, being a Liverpool fan, we've not had your view on the current situation of Liverpool. How well do you think Liverpool are currently doing, and how well do you think this game will go?
I think we've got the potential to do well. I think we've started all right. I think obviously we lost a couple of key players to the you-know-what league. I won't say too much more because they're going to nick all the players at some point. But yeah, I think we've got a chance against Newcastle. I think Newcastle, difficult team though. Obviously, with it being at Newcastle, I think that complicates it a bit. But it's never a bad game to watch, but it's never the most exciting since obviously Newcastle got their players. It's more they're both playing to win but not concede, something like that. If we start Endo, and obviously not Hendo anymore, but I think we do need that defensive midfielder. We can put McAllister further up with Szoboszlai, if that's how you say it. We can put Gakpo back down the middle. Not sure Jota comes out though, so maybe off the bench. And I mean, the defence, we need to not play like we did for the first 15 minutes against Bournemouth. If you play like that against Newcastle, you could be 2 or 3 down like in that space of time. But no, I think it's going to be an interesting game. Not the most exciting in terms of what's going on, but I do think there will be goals in it. And I think probably a 2-2 is a fair prediction.
2-2. Interesting. Now, yeah, with the Saudi League, I mean, yeah, it's a topic that certainly will get covered. And if you are interested in hearing lots of people's views, I'm sure, on this situation, and I'm sure we will all have these views, you can tune in next Friday evening from 8 o'clock to our live transfer deadline day special here on Golden Goal TV. It will be a very long show, but it will be a very good one. There'll be plenty of transfer talk and plenty of special contributions from very special people. So do tune in next Friday for that. And let me tell you, the Saudi circus will be covered very much as one of the topics. So certainly do expect controversy and do expect some strong opinions there next week, amongst other things. Right, George, Newcastle, Liverpool, where do you think this game's going?
See, I think this will be the game that has all the goals. Like Dan said, it complicates it a bit being at Newcastle because they're a lot better at home. But we all know the power what Liverpool have, like Salah, Gakpo, Diaz, Jota, even Nunez. He could come off the bench if he's not starting. I agree that Endo needs to start because they need that number 6 position sorted. And then obviously McAllister's not suspended now, which I think is big for Liverpool. Score-wise, I'm going to go 4-3 to Newcastle.
What would you say is going to be, sorry?
4-3.
Ooh, now I would love that. Bank holiday weekend thriller. That's an interesting game for me. I would say I think there'll be plenty of goals in that game too. I think there'll be goals. Both of these teams defensively, I mean, Liverpool so far conceded only 2 goals in 2 games, whereas Newcastle, well, conceded 2 goals in 2 games, but also scored just a goal more than Liverpool, actually. So there's not much between them. I'm going to go probably 3-2 to Newcastle, just about. And I think having McAllister back will be a huge boost for Liverpool. And now that red card has been rescinded, it should be a thriller. Now, we all said it'll probably be extremely boring, but hopefully not. Hopefully it will deliver. And yeah, no, it'll be a good game, I'm hoping. And that is pretty much it. So a very short preview show, I have to say. One quick update before we're out of here is Monaco are now 2-1 down in the French division. So yes, 100% record still very much being lost as things stand in that one, with PSG still having only 1 point, 2 points, I think, in the division so far. So make of that what you will. So yes, thank you, George. Thank you, Dan. Hopefully some of you will have managed to watch live with us. If not, feel free to watch once it's been uploaded and drop some comments in. We will be back next week, possibly on Monday or Tuesday. We will update you on our social media channels as to when we will review the weekend's action. And of course, do not forget, we've got that transfer show next Friday from 8 o'clock. It will be most likely at 8 o'clock till midnight. So it's going to be a long one, but it won't be just our voices. Don't worry. There'll be a lot more than that. So yes, come along. And also, if you wish to get involved and get your voice heard, you are more than welcome to. We will be getting contributions from anybody, whatever club you support. If you want to have a say on their transfer window, we want to hear from you. So if you want to come live onto the show, you can let us know via our social media channels. So at Golden Goal TV on Twitter, you can put it in the Facebook group, or you can even let us know via WhatsApp as well. If you don't want to be live on the show, but you still want to contribute, you can send us a voice recording or a video, and both could be played out. So we would have that as well as a contribution. So there's many ways for you to get involved. And something we also will be doing in the final hour of the show, we will open the show up to you, the listeners, you, the viewers, the fans of the channel, where we will actually drop the Zoom link, because that's how we do this show live. We'll drop the Zoom link on our Facebook group and into our WhatsApp group. And if you wish to actually come in and have a say live, we will open up that channel to you also. So keep your ears and eyes peeled on that one Friday night. So before we get out of here, George, where can people find you on X? Yeah, that really still does sound old.
Yeah, you can find me at George AWFC. And yeah, I'm normally floating around somewhere saying controversial stuff on the X machine.
That's the best way to be. Best way to be. Dan, I can't remember. I always forget this. I always forget. Do you have? Are you on X/Twitter/whatever it will be?
I am, but I only appear a couple of times a year, it would seem. But I am on there, yeah.
That when Liverpool win something?
Even then, I still don't appear to be honest.
Okay. Okay, well, fair enough. You can find me on at Hubert3001. That's HUBERT 3001. All digits. And yes, mainly you can catch me promoting various content from Golden Goal and RNIB Connect Radio. So yeah, a few bits and pieces like that, and on occasion a controversial post about football. So yes, good old these things. So we'll let you all get back to Chelsea versus Luton Town. Thank you very much for watching either live or most likely on demand. And we will see you back here at the beginning of next week for the preview, for the review show. And of course, next week, that all important transfer show. So remember, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and click that bell icon to receive notifications, because once we go live, you will get a notification once the show starts, and you need to then immediately click and get involved so you don't miss a moment. So be sure to subscribe and enable notifications. So for now, have a very good weekend. Enjoy the Premier League, and we will be back here at the beginning of next week to talk all about it.